Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Another classic F1 circuit is on the menu today. We move from the high-speed Canadian street circuit to a true European road racing classic, Zandvoort. A track that is filled with tricky entries and brake zones, a place that will push the limits of the drivers on track at every lap. Drivers will have to be on the limit during this quick 13-turn lap. Will we see Andy T continue the season-long dominance, or will we see a new challenger rise to the top step of the podium on this classic F1 track? Get ready for action as we are about to watch round 6 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joey Atterbury, and joining me in the booth is Michael DeTurk. Behind the scenes is our director Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. This is a track that is continuing to gain popularity on iRacing. Let's find out what makes Zandvoort so unique with this GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Zandvoort. This track just to the west of Amsterdam fell into obscurity, but is getting new life in recent times thanks to a resurgence of Formula One fans in the country. Back in the mid-20th century, it hosted the Formula One Dutch Grand Prix for nearly 30 years. Granted, it was on a much faster and more flowing layout. Nowadays, the 5 different versions which are available to be run are mostly tight and technical. The shortest one is a little under a mile, while even the longest only stretches to a little over 2.5 miles. These tiny lengths, plus the narrowness of the track and its lack of long straights, make passing almost maddeningly difficult. The 2 most common spots are Tarzan, which is the first corner, and Hans Ernst, which is the final chicane. Even though it has recently been updated in the real world with more banking, even on the old track here on iRacing, it has an unusual amount of camber for a road course. The 2 aforementioned turns, along with Hugenholtz and Schievelock, allow drivers to carry more speed than you'd expect. It also gives drivers a chance to take slightly unusual lines. Like most old school tracks, runoff is minimal. Mistakes in a few of the faster turns tend to allow no time for recovery and a big repair bill. Another unique quality is the fact that Zandvoort is literally next to the beach on the North Sea. Therefore, the sand easily blows its way onto the track surface and lessens grip. It's a tricky place to race, and even trickier circuit to win at. But with the beautiful surroundings, great history, and a mob of enthusiastic fans donning orange, you can't help but want to go visit this fantastic venue.
Well, Michael, this place is super cool, and it's starting to gain popularity, like I was mentioning, mainly because F1 has gone back here recently. And tell us a little bit more about this place.
Yeah, Joey, the addition of Formula One returning to the Netherlands and the crazy Dutch fans just swarming this track has certainly helped with its popularity. I think in Sim that's helped as well, where we are going to get, iRacing recently announced we're going to get a rescan. They recently rescanned it, I believe, this week. So for now, we're going to race the old version here on iRacing, which doesn't have the crazy banked corners, but is certainly a very fast and technical circuit for the Lotus 79 competitors today.
Yeah, I know that it's going to be really tricky, especially, I believe it's turn 3. Correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, but the steep banking here, especially with the first lap chaos that goes on with the Lotus 79 series, will be interesting to watch. And that leads us into our championship battle. Start with the F1 drivers. As we mentioned, it's been Andy T on top, and something that we were talking about, I don't see him on the timing and scoring list here today, but continues that dominance, 113 points over second place Gernot Frisch. And then you see Timothy Reed a little bit closer back there in third place, Juan Costa there in fourth, all grouped together, kind of fighting it out for that second spot. And then you see Kimmo Villakainen a little bit further back, Karthik Pai, Tomas Bartfai. And then further down, Timothy Vaughn, Andreas Schuster, and Nick Thyssen here rounding out the top 10 in the F1 driver standings. But that's not the only drivers we have on track. We also have the F2 category, which is only separated by the I rating.
Yeah, F2 is for our drivers that are under 3,000 I rating. This was added to the Lotus 79 Championship Sunday Grand Prix a season ago, and it's given us an interesting set of drivers to watch. So we've got Jason Clapper in first with 171 points, followed by Keith Herner, 13 points back. In second, in third, we see Miguel Moreland with 16 points behind Jason. In fourth is JF Gooden, 28 points back. And fifth is Jack David Spickett, who's been running a lot of different series lately, 31 points back. I know he put together a new sim rig and must be pretty excited to play a whole bunch of different stuff with it. So tied with Jack, we see Olivier with also 31 points back, followed by Kurt Clapper, longtime mainstay of the series, Barry West, Bjorn Ackerman, and Raleigh Wallbank.
Well, and noticing these F2 drivers, it's really cool to see the progression of them too, because they come here and compete every single week, and they eventually get graduated into that F1 series, and it's cool to just watch that progression of the speed happen every single week. And we're going to be doing 21 laps here at Circuit Park Zandvoort, round 8 of 12. I misspoke earlier. 21 laps, open car setup, which means these competitors have been tweaking and tuning on their setup to ideally suit them the best, and we'll speak with Michael more about that later. And no spare car out here, so that means if you pick up damage, you're going to have to carry it with you or come down pit lane and get that fixed, of course, at a time penalty. Drive-through penalty at 17x and a disqualification at 25. And Michael, I know that you've got more time on the track here. I don't think that we're going to see the 17x and disqualification at 25 come into play here, because you only pick up a couple off tracks, maybe a 1x or a 2x, and if something big happens, it's more likely going to cause damage to the car rather than a disqualification.
Yeah, it's very rare here. It's not one of those tracks like Spa where you might take a tactical off track or two to get some extra speed coming in and out of a corner. As we're on board here with Gernot as he's going down through turn 7, which is just a crazy fast downhill turn that you really got to get into the camber. As he shoots through 8 and just kind of touches that apex curb and heads into 9, which has about 8 different lines through it, and is one of those places where we might see a real attempt at a passing opportunity today.
Well, and speaking of passing, I know that this track can be very narrow at times, and even though the track surface is wide, the racing line itself is narrow. As we watch Gernot go through one of these very tricky sections, that's actually one of the points that I want to talk about here, Michael, is how is the understeer and the brake lockup going into these really, really tricky brake zones where you kind of have to balance the vehicle dynamics of the car to keep it on the ground.
Yeah, a lot of people, Joey, look at, I got to use the brakes to slow the car down for the corner. And yes, that is a function of them. But, the real focus of the brakes, especially here, and you see it, going through 1, 2, and 3 especially, is chassis dynamics. You've got to get the chassis set up and get it balanced so that you can get that optimum front versus rear grip and get back onto the power and power the car out of the corner. The brakes aren't just for slowing the car down. So it's going to be difficult here today, especially on lap 1 and 2 when we've got those cold tires and you see that larger grip offset between the small front tires and the giant Lotus 79 rear axle trying to reel in that torque from the DFV.
Well, watching Gernot drive around this track, it reminds me why I enjoy watching the F1 cars, and they're a little bit oversized for this place, but let me tell you, when they go through these middle sections of the racetrack where it's just the sweeping corners, fast, blind entries over crest, just the tremendous amounts of speed that they carry is awesome to see. And then through this tricky mechanical grip section that Gernot's going through right now and leading back out onto 2 more sweeping corners out onto the front straightaway. And Gernot actually looks like he's on a very fast lap here. We'll see if he improves his lap time, currently sitting provisionally second on the grid. Improves, but not enough to take away the first spot. Juan Costa still up there, provisional pole.
Yeah, really nice lap there from Gernot. Went 3 or 4 tenths faster, but as you said, Wanmi is still sitting in pole, and with the absence of Andy T this week, it'll be interesting to see if Wanmi tries to run away again like he did last week, or if Gernot's going to give him a real challenge here. I think that start, as we talked about before, is going to be really important. I know last time we were out here, the pole position did not lead most of the race. Topi had taken pole, and Yuka snatched the lead away from him right at the start, and refused to relinquish it until he was moved out of the way. So it'll be interesting to see how that start plays out.
With Andrew Eng crossing the finish line there, that's going to do it for the last car available to put down a lap time. And we officially have our starting grid. I mentioned the number 2 car, Juan Costa, takes pole position. Joining him on the outside of the front row, that's Gernot Frische in the number 1. Juho Raina in the 3rd spot, Timothy Vaughn 4th place, Dylan Freckleton up into the top 5. Great qualifying for Dylan. Nick Thyssen there in 6th spot, Karthik Pai 7th, Timothy Reed 8th, Tomas Bartfai and Olivier Verhagen round out the top 10.
Yeah, on row 6, we're going to see Jacob Obroslak, followed by Barry West, Alejandro Sanz, Hiroyuki Sakaguchi, followed by Jason Carlo in 15th and Keith Herner in 16th. 17th is Tim Britton with David Esvedo in 18th, Miguel Moreland in 19th, and Sam Karasala rounding out your row 10.
21st spot, we got Bjorn Ackerman, followed up with Kurt Clapper, Andrew Eng, Jason Steinhurst, Torsten Bale, Jason Clapper, Daniel Bonowitz, and also Charlie Needham, rounding out the 28-car strong field here of these Lotus 79 machines. And Michael, we're going to get them pre-gridded up here. Take a look at the weather really fast. Nice cool day, 66 degrees air temp, 78 on the track. That means these cars are going to be hooked up. And before we get the engines rev, any final thoughts?
You know, we saw there was very little wind there at the start. It was only, I think, 6 miles an hour. It's Zandvoort. That can change very, very quickly, and it's something these drivers are going to have to be careful of. This track is right on the ocean. You got the beach right next to it. The wind can really kick up, and it can change the handling of this car significantly, especially coming through turns 13 and 14 onto the pit straight, where drivers are going to have trimmed the car out for the minimum amount of wing so they can try to get a run and get a chance to pass there.
Well, looks like we're getting everybody gridded up. Got the engines up, and the green flag is out. We are racing here at Zandvoort. Oh no, big wheel spin from 3rd place on the grid. Checks up the majority of the field with how narrow it is, but Looks like Juan Costa with a great start over Gernot Frisch out front. Timothy Vaughn there in the third place, and I don't see any cars turned around as they're headed into this tricky turn 3 bank section for the first time.
Yeah, as they come through turn 3 here, they really got to be careful on the brakes. It doesn't have as much banking as the newer modern version of the track, but it's still really easy to just touch the brakes a little too hard and get the car to rotate. But so far, so good. Looks like everybody's clean as we see the leaders heading through turn 7.
And this is that fast section of the racetrack. You see them just come up over the crest and instantly out of frame once again as they just sweep their way around through these corners. A little bit slower here through this left-hander, but this is such a cool racetrack. You get these really cool mechanical slow bits and these sweeping corners where the cars really need the aerodynamic grip and downforce levels. But I tell you what, Juan Costa has got a great jump on the rest of the field here. You see about 5 car lengths separate him between Gernot Frisch and another 5 car lengths back to Timothy Vaughn. And then finally, Karthik Pai in the 4th place has some company behind him with Juho Raina and also Nick Thyssen joining the party.
Yeah, Karthik with a great start, up from 7th all the way up to 4th. Just, you know, must have gotten that whole shot, and as you said, 3rd had a little bit of a slow start and really put it up there nicely. And he's just got a little bit of a train form behind him, but we'll see what happens as the tires get up to temp here and see if he can hold that off.
Now, I have a feeling that the trains are going to be a common theme here that we're going to see as we ride on board with Nick Thyssen here. This is the 6th place, looking ahead at 5th and 4th with Karthik Pai in the yellow car. And we see DRS trains in real life, Michael, and that's more due to the aerodynamic limits of the cars. But here at this circuit, it's more just the narrowness of the racing line on the track. Is that here we see Juho Raina get a run on Pai, but he's got nowhere to go with it.
Yeah, coming down through 7's tough, but this section here through 8, 9, and 10, if you can get 8 properly, as we see Juho kind of take a look to the outside there, through 10, there's about 3 or 4 different lines there, and you can really try to get a run, although you went a little bit wide, and Nick Thyssen's going to take a look here and maybe attack. Nope, as he backs off as they come back down through turns 11 and turns 12, the stadium section here.
And as easy as that stadium section looks, there's slight dips on elevation, both on entry and the second apex, and it can really throw you for a loop if you don't have the car placed correctly on the right part of the track. And I'm happy we're watching this battle for what is the 4th place on the racetrack, because I tell you what, the top 3 have just kind of, or I should say the top 2 have just kind of scooted away from this battle. And it's Karthik Pai that's now tagging onto the back of Timothy Vaughn, but he's got a hungry Juho Raina as well as that Nick Thyssen in the red car, and not just behind Nick Thyssen, but Timothy Reed, Tomas Bartfei, Dylan Freckleton. They're all starting to line up now.
Yeah, Tomas is the F2 champion from last season. Timothy Reed, the stalwart of the series. He has, over 100 starts in the Sunday Grand Prix series, and Nick Thyssen's been around for, as long as the series has, basically. So definitely no strangers to the Lotus 79 here. These are all really fast guys, and as we see on screen, this is a really, really tight and competitive looking race. Even 3 laps in here, I won't be surprised if this group stays together for, I'm going to commentator's curse this right now, but stays together for the whole 21 lap race. I could see them just sitting nose to tail and constantly probing and trying to attack. But a really tight group, as we saw a little bit of a lockup, and Nick Thyssen takes a little bit of a different line there, trying to get a run, but kind of gets held up at the apex.
Well, you mentioned it. Nick Thyssen a little bit faster than Juho in that section, but what I've noticed these first couple laps here is that Raina's a little bit faster in the first half of the racetrack. Nick is a little bit faster in the second half of the racetrack, but check this out. We got Timothy Reed challenging Nick Thyssen down into turn 1, and that's how close the competitors are stacked up, that if you miss your opportunity in front of you, you gotta check out what's behind you, because they are equally as close, and they're gonna take advantage if they see a misstep out of you. And going through that tricky turn 3 one more time, Nick Thyssen all up on the back of Juho Raina right now. That's allowed Karthik Pai just a little bit of breathing room, and here we are riding on board with Timothy Reed. This is honestly the best view of the battle.
Yeah, as we see them coming down through turn 8 here, you really got to get it in and touch that apex curb. Tim does a nice job of that. And then, like I said, you've kind of got an option on lines here. Tim took a little bit of a wider line through turn 9 there, which I like. It gives you a chance to kind of see the guys in front of you attacking each other, and it gives you just a little bit of breathing room to kind of think, hey, if in front of me, if Nix attacks you, do I have an option? Can I go around the outside? Can I pressure him? Can I, place my car a little bit to the left and get that run as I dive down through the corner? It's kind of like over-undering, but without anybody in front of you, and it just gives you a couple of extra line options where you go, you know what? I know there isn't a passing opportunity that's great, but can I make one?
Well, and Nick Thisson's as close as he's ever been going down into turn 1. Wisely thinks better of it. He wasn't quite there to make a lunge into the short brake zone. And Michael, I want to ask your opinion here, because you have a lot of time in these cars, and around a circuit such as this, what kind of downforce levels are most of these competitors running?
Zandvoort, you're getting kind of a medium downforce level. We're seeing somewhere around 160 mile an hour top speed. But it's pretty typical for the guys in this series to start trimming the car out. They have a variety of options of setup. You've got the iRacing baseline. You've got the community setups that are done by a variety of members of the community that are race winners. This week, Timo Karjalainen did the setup for the community, and a lot of guys are running that. And then you've also got VRS has started doing setups. So what you'll see is a lot of guys trimming it out, and the real tricky point is turn 13 and 14. You want to get to the point where you can maximize your speed through that without dying. And, we've seen through turn 13 and 14, which are coming up here, that there are quite a few tire tracks off in the gravel there. And it's really easy to just run it out a little bit wide there when you use too little downforce. And that'll end your race really quick, because Zandvoort is one of those classic tracks where there's no runoff. It's blind corners, and it's extremely fast.
Well, and we see that. The guardrails, here in turn 1, there's some runoff with sandbox, but look at the guardrails. They're right on the side of the track here. Jason Clapper started in the back in the slipstream, going to make a move down into turn 1, promote him up into the 19th place as he goes by familiar Kurt Clapper out there. And I always love watching Jason and Kurt race their way up through the field. They don't like to qualify, and in my opinion, that is some of the most fun racing you can do, is where you're able to work your way up. And I tell you what, Nick Thisson is all over the back of Juho Raine. He's just been very patient, but this last lap, I started to see a little bit of frustration out of this red number 5, and that he was weaving down the straightaway saying, hey, you know what, I'm stuck back here. I'm faster than these guys, but I just can't quite find a way by, and these straightaways aren't quite long enough, and the brake zones aren't quite long enough for me to make a really big lunge. But I do believe that the number 5 car has a little bit more pace than the 2 cars in front of him.
Yeah, he had a nice handful of opposite lock coming through there, which, I love seeing these cars slide around. It's such a joy to see that. But yeah, Nick definitely looks like he wants to get it done. He's just got that little bit of aero wash coming through the corners, which maybe is hampering his ability to get the power down just as he picks up that little bit of understeer. But as they go through turn 1, kind of single file here, turn 3 is a tough spot to get his pass done. I really think it's got to come down to in the back section in 8 or 9, or possibly into the stadium section in turn 11. I'm sorry, Joe, you're not going to hear me try to pronounce any of the Dutch corner names today.
No, hey, you're okay with me. It's always Peak that's got the names down, but I'm a race car driver. I know them by turn numbers, not the turn names, so we're getting along just fine. And things are starting to stack up a little bit here for what is that 4th place position. Nick Thisson starting to show his nose a little bit more and more every single lap. And you mentioned it. Look at the big power slides that he's got as he's trying to get the throttle back down on exit. He's using up the tires underneath him. If he continues to be aggressive, who knows what the car is going to be like at the end of the race. And want to take a little moment to break here, because we're about a third of the way through the race. This is still a tremendous, what it looks to be 7 cars deep now in this train. But Michael, this F2 championship, we were looking at it before the race, and I know that some of the top players in the F2 category are here and racing right now, including this number 10 of Jason Clapper. And this race specifically is going to have some pretty big points implications.
Yeah, we only had a single split today. Zandvoort, while we did talk about it being quite popular, it is in need of a refresh, as iRacing has acknowledged that they have rescanned it and it is coming, but it does suffer a little bit from popularity issues sometimes. So, and it's very, very challenging in the Lotus 79. So, as we've seen, there are not a lot of passing opportunities here. So, in terms of points today, Verhagen is in 11th. We've got Clapper moving up through the order. So yeah, there's quite a points haul. Barry West is in 10th. There's quite a points haul for the F2 guys here today. As we also have our former F2 champion sitting in 8th in top split. So it's I'm going to say it's a few more times, but there's a lot of points to be had here.
Well, and I think one of the things with the F2 championship that I notice is it's collecting the weeks raced. The more weeks race you can do, the better off you're going to be in the championship. And then when these slower weeks come along where you're all in the same split, this is the time that you get to capitalize. And here you see Olivier Verhagen. He may be an F2 driver, but he's battling it out. He's trying to get up in the top 10, and that's actually Barry West that's right here in front of him. And these are both drivers fighting for this F2 championship as they go down into turn 1 side by side. Barry West continues to hold that outside line, but look at this, too wide through turns 1 and 2. Great respect out of both of these racing car drivers to leave room for each other on the racetrack.
Yeah, Verhagen had a really nice pinch there down on Barry in turn 1 and really forced him to measure his throttle on exit, and it gave Verhagen the better drive out despite Barry being really strong on the brakes there into 1. Barry hasn't given up though yet, clearly, as we see him harass down through turn 7 and turn 8, but Verhagen's going to try to stretch that out and make Barry a smaller object in his mirrors.
Well, and these two, like we mentioned, are in the F2 championship, so I wouldn't expect this fight to go anywhere. Maybe a little bit of ebb and flow on short run speed, but Michael, we got to remember we're not even halfway through this race. We'll have to see what these race cars are like at the end of the race, because let me tell you something about car setup. If you only go out there and practice 2 laps at a time, that's all the faster your car is going to be. When you get out there to lap 15, lap 18, you are in trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, these cars do have, even with the shorter race runs that we're doing now, we've kind of reduced the race length a little bit, but even with the shorter race runs, these cars have quite a bit of dynamic change through a full race run. Oh, we've got a spinner up, I'm not sure who that was.
Timothy Reed, it looks like, is around. Going out of turn 1. Have to see exactly what happened here, but looks to be a solo car incident. Timothy Reed was hanging on the back of that top 5, top 6 battle. And here we see him just kind of hanging on the back of Nick Thyssen here. I'm going to guess maybe just a little bit too much apex speed, and yep, sure enough, too much entry, and around he goes.
Yeah, I think we saw Timothy Vaughn maybe spin in solidarity with him behind that to maybe avoid the accident.
Could be, and then we also saw Hiroki Saguchi here. This was also in turn 1, trying to go around the outside, and just out there in the dirty area of the track, and you see how low grip it is.
Yeah, I got the paint schemes mixed up there. It was that was the second car that I was seeing on the outside of turn 1. So thank you for that, Joey. It's a hard one there. It's, a lot of people want to go down to first gear for turn 1. I have never been a fan of that because it's really, really easy to chirp the rear tires and just kind of load that rear axle up on that quick downshift going down to first gear. And sometimes it's not the brakes, it's locking the rear on downshift that'll get you into turn 1, and sometimes that causes those spins.
It's a very interesting point, and I'm happy you brought it up because these Lotus 79 machines, they don't have the fancy transmissions that a lot of the new cars have. So some of these competitors still using the 3 pedals versus just the automatic shifting that iRacing offers you. And you're right. When you get down into those lower gears, it can be very, very tricky. And look at this, Nick Thyssen crawling all over the back of Reina, but nowhere to go in this really high-speed sweeping section of the racetrack. And Michael, you know these competitors a little bit better than I do. Are we going to see more frustration out of this group of three, or these three pretty well-mannered?
Nick's been really measured here, but I'm really surprised he hasn't sent it. You know, he's had a couple of opportunities, and I think if he got past Reina that he could really give Pi a good challenge, and maybe if he got past both, be competing for a podium, but he's been kind of stuck here. And Reina and Pi have both driven excellent defensive races. They're not letting their mirrors distract them. But you know, I feel like this one's got to kind of hop out of the draft into the braking zone into 1 or into 9 and really kind of scare them offline a little bit. You know, I'm not hoping for here we go. We're going to see Thyssen try to get a move down into 1. Oh, they touch.
Yeah, just touched wheels going down the straightaway. I'm not sure who to put that on, but I certainly thought that Nick was going to have the move done going into turn 1. I think he just thought better of it when that contact happened going down the straightaway. But I agree, Michael. I think that Nick Thyssen here, he's shown that he has the speed, and I agree. If he gets around maybe Reina, I think he will get around Pi and then go up and challenge Timothy Vaughn. He's showing that he's got that speed, and he's just trapped right now as we see Juho Reina start to apply a little bit of pressure on Karthik Pai, and this might be the opportunity that Nick Thyssen needs. He's going to go to the outside, try to set up this really late apex move, and then capitalize on the power down. Looks like Reina struggles with the throttle. This is going to provide the opportunity to Nick, but he's on the wrong side of the track. How aggressive is he going to be? Decides not to shove the car down in there, wait for another opportunity.
That was one of those classic moments in a multi-car battle, Joey, where, you know, you think you've got the opportunity to attack, you take that alternate line, you start to get the car set up, and you just get that little bit of oversteer, and suddenly you're no longer attacking, you're on the defense.
Now, we're going to get a quick replay here. This is Jason Clapper. See exactly what happened. Jason is one of the cars that started in the back. Oh, and right in front of him just had a big slide from the number 15. That was Tim Britton involved as well. And unfortunately, nowhere for Jason Clapper to go.
Yeah, they're coming through 7 here, and they go into 8, and Britton just got the car just a little bit too sideways and put a nice 2-foot save on it. But unfortunately, when you 2-foot it and slow it up that fast, and you've got somebody following you, it's not going to end up well.
Well, I have to report Juho Reina. Look at this. Exit of turn 1, spun all by himself. That frees Nick Thyssen. You see him just narrowly miss that accident here, and hopefully Juho didn't get any damage from backing it into the tire wall there, but that is going to free the number 5 car to go and attack Karthik Pai.
Yeah, nice heads-up avoidance by Nick there. Took it out into the gravel, kept it straight, and came back on track, and didn't lose too much time, but that very easily could have been a race ender.
Ooh, pretty deep on the brakes there from Dylan Freckleton as he jumps the curbs and riding along board with this pink helmet and purple car. Pretty cool color combination, if you do say so myself, looking at this car on track. And as something I do want to say, I'm happy that Dylan Freckleton is still racing, because he was the one who had the massive wheel spin on the initial start and was turned perpendicular 90 degrees to the field with everybody barreling down on him. But heck of a save out of Dylan Freckleton to keep it on the racetrack. And this is jumping back. Timothy Reed has company in the form of Juho Reina, working his way back up through the field now.
Yeah, they've both lost a couple of spots here, but we've kind of resumed that fight that was on the tail end of Karthik Pai, but a few spots lower. We saw a little bit of a brake lock up into 1 there, but Timothy Reed has gotten past and is just going to try to stretch his legs here. I think Juho's got just a little bit of rear wing damage, so it's going to be a matter of trying to keep the car in Timothy's draft as long as possible and hopefully not hemorrhage too many positions.
Now, I know that we're past halfway. We're working 8 laps to go, and we really haven't mentioned our front 2 at all, and there's nothing that's changed. And I do want to give some credit here to Juan Costa because he's doing very, very consistent laps. Last lap was a little bit off pace, but I believe that was going through a lapped car, and he has the fastest lap of the race at a 1:23.6. Currently 3.6 seconds in front of Gernot Frischa. You see lap 14 where Gernot was able to close it back in a half a second. Just a little bit of a mistake out of Juan Mi. The only one that I've seen this race, and to talk about Gernot Frischa, he's just hung on the back 4+ seconds back behind our leader. But these two, Michael, 16 seconds in front of third place.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's been a little bit of fighting over third, fourth, fifth, but wow, just absolutely storming away from the field. As Ryan's spooling up a replay here for us, we're going to see Nick Thyssen going past Pi. Take us through it, Joey.
Yeah, just a pretty straightforward move, looking down the inside to turn 1 here. Deep on the brakes, actually really good racing side by side, but gets the better exit out of 1, and that's where it all completes the passes. Getting the better drive out of 1, you see has the track positioning, and case closed. Nick Thyssen up into the 4th place. And Michael, if we go back a handful of laps, you mentioned that if Nick Thyssen is freed from the back of Reina, he could potentially go up and get on the podium, and certainly looks that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I watched him in practice. He had quite a bit of pace, and I think just kind of got caught up at the start there, trying to figure out where the best place to go to survive was. And you know, once Reina spun, and now he's dispatched Pi with a nice move down into 1, and Karthik gave him quite a bit of racing room and was very, very respectful to him. That now we see him, he's going to be right up onto the back of Timothy Vaughn, and it's gonna go off here for the podium. We're going to see if he can get this last move done, and I don't think he's going to catch Gernot in 6 laps, but definitely hoping for that last spot on the podium.
No, he'd be a miracle man if he could reel in 17 seconds in some 5 laps. I would be pretty impressed out there, but
yeah.
You're right. He's lining up Timothy Vaughn, and you see the car moving around quite a bit on Nick Thyssen here. He's used up those tires being behind all these cars for so long, so he's really out there driving the car sideways, just seeing where he can make the time, but he's crawling it back inch by inch every single corner, and I wouldn't doubt if he is tucked up in the toe going down the front straightaway at the end of this lap. As you see, he's already right on the back of Timothy Vaughn.
Yeah, look at him close up on the brakes through the 11-12 stadium section. He's definitely going to try to run this out here and get a nice run down into turn 1.
Well, and something that I'm noticing our 2 leaders are going through is definitely a lot of lap traffic as we're riding on board here with Nick in the number 5 car. Timothy Vaughn goes defensive, and we see Nick try to capitalize on this over-under. It's all about the run out. You see him with a great exit, but nowhere to go as Timothy Vaughn perfectly places his car on the track. And now through this tricky banked turn 3 section, and after here, there's not really many places that you can get a move done through these sweepers.
Nope, and as they come up here and dive down through the fast right-hander of 7, you do pick, Nick's gonna peek into 7. You do pick up a little bit of aero wash here. So, you know, part of that peak from Nick is trying to get the air over the front wing of the car, and part of it is trying to distract Timothy Vaughn as you go down through 7 so that maybe he'll be slow through 8 and you can get a look into 9. But it hasn't worked. Timothy Vaughn is still nicely online here through 10 as Thyssen is just walking it on the throttle out of the turn, and we're going to shoot back up into the stadium section here.
Well, and Nick Thyssen, I think he's been very fast through this last half of the racetrack, and has been able to set him up for those couple of passes down the front straightaway. But going around the final 2 corners here, I don't think he's quite close enough here this lap. He's going to have to pull out a miracle around the final corner, and the cars just don't quite slow down enough. So I think Timothy Vaughn is safe going into turn 1 here this lap, but it's all about the setup. We're getting the mention, you know, you got to fill those mirrors, and it's not always about making the pass, but sometimes if you're able to fill the mirrors enough to apply that pressure, the car in front makes a mistake himself and you can just drive right on by.
Yeah, Tim Reed gets a nice run down turn 1 and gets past Verhagen for 8th place on his recovery drive. Made it look nice and easy, and Jason Carlo is also making a pass into 1. People are noticing that we're in the final 4 laps here and know that if they want those moves, they've got to apply some pressure and maybe get a little bit aggressive as he locks up a little bit. And I'm not sure who that was going back past him, as they're going to go too wide all the way down to 7th as we're on board with Barry West.
Barry West and Jason Carlo too wide through the narrowest section of the racetrack, still too wide. No contact between the two, and Jason Carlo up to the 12th position. He's up 3 spots from his starting spot, and Barry West, we mentioned Barry earlier because he's one of those drivers in that F2 championship. I believe Keith Herner directly behind him is as well in that F2 championship, so definitely points implications on the line here in this battle.
You know, Joey, I thought that was going to end in tears. We saw Barry try to give as much room as possible through 6, and he kind of clipped that entry curb, and the car hopped a little bit, and I thought it was going to move over, and we were going to see them both out with the Seagulls on the outside of 7.
Well, it's like I'm hooked up via Ethernet to our producer, Ryan Bauer, here, because Nick Thyssen is all over the back of Timothy Vaughn, and I tell you what, the cars in front of them, these are lapped cars they're approaching, so they're going to be catching and passing these cars. This is just an additional variable that they have to deal with, and you see Timothy Vaughn right here already getting checked up from the lapped car. This is going to provide a potential passing opportunity, but you see it's very, very narrow through this section of the racetrack. Got to be careful to navigate these cars and also continue racing. Great job from Timothy Vaughn reading how that traffic was racing and continues to lead Nick Thyssen behind him.
Yeah, great defensive drive there to make sure he got past the lapped car, but also kept Nick behind him. I thought that might bring Karthik back into play here, but unfortunately he got checked up a little bit through turn 10 and didn't gain on them. It's always one of those tough ones when you're that third driver back and you're thinking, yes, this lap traffic's going to help me out. And the guys in front of you get checked up, and then you get checked up too, and you think, all right, never mind.
Well, here comes Nick Thyssen. He's got the best run ever going down into turn 1. He takes it super deep on the brakes, too wide between him and Timothy Vaughn. He's going to have the run out of the corner. Timothy Vaughn is going to have to yield this position, and Nick Thyssen finally up onto that podium with 2 laps to go.
Yeah, what a great move around the outside. You know, it's kind of that atypical move where you think, oh, I'm going to defend to the inside. And turn 1 here's got just enough camber on it where you can walk it around the outside and stand on the throttle and get that really nice run out to 2 as we see Keith Herner try to repeat the exact same move. And he's going to hang it around the outside through 2 and through 3. And will he get the braking down into 4?
You know, this is a fantastic battle because Barry West, this is the second time we've highlighted him too wide through this section of racetrack. And I just want to give a shout out to the driver, the number 14. It is not easy to race too wide with your competitors, and he has shown that he consistently does it out there. And just as I say that, we're going to get a quick replay of exactly this pass here. Tomas Bartfai, back in the number 9 car, 12th position, having a few little difficulties out on track.
Yeah, coming down through turn 7, he just doesn't quite get it to the apex. And with the camber in 7, if you miss the apex a little bit, it's really easy to end up in that situation where the rear end will just start stepping on you and you end up spinning out with the Seagulls out in the beach there off of 7. So definitely what happened there is we're going to see Juan Costa, who's just dominated this entire race, coming through turns 8, 9, and 10 on his final lap.
Dominating indeed. In fact, that last lap, 123.2, fastest lap of the race from anyone, and he is still on the wick. This is looking to be even faster on the final lap. Oh no, he's got a lap car spun in front of him. That's never something you want to see as the leader, but worked through it just fine. And Juan Costa, only 2 more corners, this fast sweeping right-hander, and 1 more sweeping corner to go. He is looking for Barney the flagman, holding that checkered flag, weaving down the front straightaway. Your winner here at Zandvoort, the number 2, Juan Costa.
Yeah, just a dominant drive from him. So we see Gernot come through 6 seconds behind, and then Nick Thiessen with the really nice drive to get back up onto the podium, and he's going to come through the final 2 corners here, and barring any issues, he's going to round out our podium.
Yeah, great run from Nick Thiessen. Really, really patient the whole race, and it paid off with being able to spray some champagne. Timothy Vaughn coming home 4th. Karthik Pai there in the 5th position. I'm looking a little bit further back, see if there's any battles. Maybe Keith Herner still out here on the racetrack. You see Keith in this red and white car, followed by David Azevedo and Barry West in front of him. But time is running out through these final couple of sweepers, and I don't think I see enough of a run. I think Barry West is going to hang on. Keith Herner 14th, and David Azevedo there rounding out the top 15 spots. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with the official finishing results.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going? Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings, where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
What a race, dominated by Juan Costa in the number 2 machine, winning by 6.5 seconds over the most successful Lotus 79 driver, Gernot Prix there. Nick Thiessen with one heck of a drive to stay really patient in the first 3 quarters of the race, and then the opportunity presented itself for him to jump up onto the podium, and he took it to spray some champagne. Timothy Vaughn with a great race in 4th place, hanging on there. Karthik Pai also doing a fantastic job to stay inside the top 5 in the 5th place position. Dylan Freckleton with a nightmare of a start hangs on to 6th place. Timothy Reed 7th. Olivier Verhagen with great points for that F2 championship comes home 8th. Juho Reina in 9th, and Alejandro Sanz in the top 10.
In 11th, we have Jason Carlo, followed by our F2 champion last season, Thomas Bartfai. 13th is Barry West, who seemed to go side by side with absolutely everybody today. In 14th is Keith Herner, followed by David Azevedo, who was very, very close to closing it up there at the end at the line. 16th is Kurt Clapper, followed by Jacob Obroslack, excuse me. I cannot pronounce your name, Jacob. I'm sorry. Followed by 18th is Sam Karasala, 19th is Miguel Moreland, and 20th is Hiroyuki Sakaguchi.
And then here in the 21st spot, our first car, 1 lap down, Andrew Eng. Jason Steinhurst in 22nd, Torsten Bale 23rd, and then these cars, Daniel Bonowitz and Tim Britton 2 laps down, Jason Clapper multiple laps down with the problems early on, as well as Bjorn Ackerman and Charlie Needham did not really get going here this race. And that leads us to our interviews. Looks like we do have our race winner, Juan Costa, standing by. Congratulations on the win today.
Thank you.
Now, take us through the race, because it seemed pretty boring out there for you out front, but you kept your head down, and I noticed you continued to click off fast lap after fast lap, and in fact, set the fastest lap of the race with 1 lap to go.
Yeah, I had to push at the start because I know Gernot have a good pace mid-end race. So I had to take as much gap as I could, because also there is the traffic. I know it's gonna happen some traffic at the end. So I had to open the gap as much as possible.
Well, now talk to me about the traffic, because like you said, it always plays a factor towards the end of the races. Did you have any problems getting your way through the lapped cars? Because this circuit is very narrow at times.
No, the lap car they did perfect for me. There was a moment I was in the middle of 2 of them, one on the outside and I was on the middle, and then I saw another one with rejoining the track, but it was safe. They did it perfect for me.
Well, and I think that answer right there shows why so many people want to come and race these cars, because the group that you race with it is very clean. They're aware of what's going on out there. And this win definitely is great for you in terms of the points haul in the championship. Now, is this something that you're going to be going up there and battling Gernot for the rest of the season?
I think because Andy did a perfect start of the season, I think my only chance is to try to beat Gernot for the rest. So I will try to. It's not going to be easy.
Well, no, it is never easy against Mr. Freesia out there. And looking at the next race of Silverstone, a little bit more room to move around and race on the racetrack compared to Zandvoort here. How's your confidence level going into that track?
I'm not a big fan of modern tracks for this car, but I think it'll be okay. Very fast and with, like you said, with a lot of room to fight with another car. Let's see how it goes.
And last thing, before I let you go, is there anybody that you want to say hi to?
Thank you to you, to the GSCRC, and the Lotus guys.
That was Juan Costa, driver of the number 2 car, taking home the win and the checkered flag here at the Lotus 79 series in Zandvoort. And we have our second place finisher, very well known, Mr. Freesia, standing by with Michael de Turk.
Congratulations on yet another podium to add to your total.
Thanks, Mike. Nice to see you in the commentary booth.
Yeah, little change up here. We occasionally will throw me in just to harass you guys. So, talk us through your race today. Did you have any challenges? I know it was only a single split here. Was traffic a real issue for you, or did you get to just push all out the whole time?
Yeah, I've been pushing a lot because I felt I had quite good pace this week, and yeah, basically the race was really good. But yeah, I had 2 moments with lap cars, so I had to fight them for some corners, and that meant losing 1 to 2 seconds per car. So didn't help. But on the other hand, I wouldn't have had a chance against Juan. He was really fast again this week.
I'm not sure I'd say you wouldn't have had a chance. You're always very good at applying the pressure. For your setup this week, did you opt for a slightly higher, or did you go for a little bit of a lower trimmed out setup to try to make sure you had a chance at people on the main straight?
I went with a little bit less downforce. Of course, you always have to expect to lose some positions at the start, and at a track like this. It's really hard to pass unless you have some good top speed, at least on the straight. So you have to hope for the other car to make a mistake out of the final corner, then maybe you can pass them on the straight. Otherwise, you have no chance here for an easy pass.
Yeah, it's always a tough one here. Next week, we're headed to Silverstone, but not the historic legacy layout that we usually run. We're going to the modern GP circuit, which we haven't run in quite a while. Are you looking forward to that, or are you thinking, you know what, I don't really look forward to those slow new Sector 1 corners?
You're exactly right. I'm not looking forward to that. I really like the historic layout. So the old version of the track was much better, in my opinion, for this car. So I don't like the new layout a lot. But yeah, it's the same for everyone, and yeah, we have to cope with it. It's fine.
Yeah, always interesting when we pick something that's a little bit different and add a new challenge for the drivers. So congratulations again this week. And is there anybody you'd like to thank?
As usual, you guys doing the commentary, including you now, Mike, and of course, yeah, congratulations to Juanmi and Nick. Don't know how Nick did that third place actually, but very good result for him as well. So see you next week. Bye bye.
He had an exciting race, so you'll definitely enjoy it watching it back.
And that was Gernot Friesche, second place finisher here at Zandvoort, and I think that's going to do it. I don't see anybody else here in the interview room, and that means thanks to the team today, Joey, Michael, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website store, and merchandise store. You can find links in the description below, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. And of course, thank you to Ryan as well. He's always the best producer. I always love working with him. I forgot his name there. Next race, Silverstone, Sunday, February 12th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And be sure to check out all of the other broadcasts listed here on the channel. Up next on GSRC is the Majors Next Gen at Daytona 500. Going on now, so go ahead, click on over to that channel. Starts here in just a couple minutes. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.